Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Kyle.
According to last week's episode, to brand new brokettes that are confused by this, the way we format the show is first we cover news ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more, and then we close out with the comic book reviews for the week.
How does that answer their question about me being Kyle?
Well, they have to tune into last week's episode. That's going to answer their question about that. And you're still sick.
I'm still sick. It's been, for like 3 weeks?
First you had the fever.
Yes.
And then you just had a general cold, I guess.
Yes, and it won't go away. I cough all the time to the point where, the people I work with see me and then pretend to cough. And then I punch them.
I have that happen. I think it's some kind of weird reaction that people have. Whenever they hear people cough, they want to cough as well, even though they haven't even coughed all day. It's like a weird knee-jerk reaction.
But, they do it to make fun of me because they know I cough all the time.
No, if you go back to, a classroom setting and there's the one person that's coughing all the time, you'll suddenly have regular people just coughing all of a sudden just because I don't even know what human nature that is. If brokettes know the answer to that, maybe it's a part of having them fit into the group, and that's why you're coughing
cough,
too.
Like sympathetic yawning.
Or you feel they're coughing so much, and suddenly my throat is a little bit scratchy too, and it's like a psychological thing that suddenly they have to cough. It happens all the time at the shop.
I would go and slap them and be like, no, I'm the one with the problem.
Did you know Kelly's had pneumonia? That is a thing.
I did. Actually, yeah, and that's why my coughs stick around for so long. It was 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah, and it's still...
I was sick for 2 months. And now every time I get a head cold, it drops into my chest and it just sits with me for 3 weeks. It's the worst thing ever.
You were complaining this week about not having a story of the week.
Yes.
Did you have story time with Kelly today? If not, I have stories lined up.
Well, you're probably going to have to share your stories, because I had a very, very bad day at work. And so all you're going to hear is how I work with dumbasses.
Hopefully they're not listening, because...
I hope not, because I'm really pissed off. I snapped at one too many people today.
Well, mine is I heard a passerby, a group of teenage girls, just talking about Nightwing.
Okay.
And how cute Nightwing was, and how hot Nightwing was. Nightwing is so hot. And I'm just like, all right, I can see that. I see it on Twitter all the time.
Okay.
Girls like Dick Grayson. And then I hear, and Deadpool too. Deadpool's hot too. And I'm like, wait a second, what? Have you seen Deadpool? What is attractive about Deadpool? You're a woman. What could possibly
see it.
be?
He's mysterious. He's
not
funny.
mysterious. He's funny. Sure.
He just needs someone to love him.
I don't know about that. He's not some hurt soul like the Beast and Beauty and the Beast or Batman.
Yeah, but I could see it. I don't know that I could really describe it, but I could see it.
Hot?
Yeah. Have you seen his body in that spandex?
He's full of bumps. Yes, he's got cancer all the time.
All I see are muscles. Never seen any bumps.
Women are weird. I would never describe. That's why I thought that was weird. Deadpool hot never would have crossed my mind. You could put Hawkeye ahead of Deadpool. And next to Dick Grayson, after Dick Grayson too, Dick Grayson and then Deadpool, and you're number 2.
I don't even know that Dick Grayson would really be on my top 5 list even.
It's because you know his personality.
No, because you got Batman.
All right, Batman. So who goes ahead of Dick Grayson on your hot list in the world of comics?
Okay, so we got Batman.
Sure.
Bruce Wayne.
So Bruce Wayne, it counts. It's an alternate persona. Okay. Sure, that's your number 2.
I don't know that I don't
know why this is so difficult for you. John Stewart, I know better than you. John Stewart's your number 3.
Why is John Stewart my number 3?
Because you liked him in Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, I liked him with Hawk Girl.
I thought you said it was your regular cartoon crush.
No, John Stewart? No, yes. My cartoon crush was Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
Well, I don't think you're going to come up with a top 5.
I could, totally. DC Razor, can I count Razor?
Yeah, that counts.
Okay,
Razor, that's
so
a number
Razor's
3.
Up there.
Yeah.
Can I count Zuko?
No. He never appeared in DC Comics.
I know. He's also 14. Is that creepy?
Maybe a little. Would you put the Joker, Mr. Freeze, or Ra's al Ghul anywhere on that list?
In my top 5? Probably
yes.
not my top 5.
So they'd be mainly superheroes?
Yeah, probably. Maybe the Flash. He's pretty cute.
All right, the Flash, maybe.
Maybe the Flash. I don't know. There's a lot of options. Not Superman.
Never Superman
Never
at all?
Superman, no.
Superboy?
I mean, maybe Superboy.
Martian Manhunter?
No.
Dr. Manhattan, I fucking got you. Sandman?
No.
Sandman?
No.
I don't know you at all then. I'm trying to give
not.
you legitimate guesses.
I'm gonna have to think. I'll come up with a good list.
See, I'm going with personality choices.
I mean, Silver Surfer.
Alright, Silver Surfer would probably
Silver Surfer
count.
can be on there. Personality? No, not Dr. Manhattan.
In summary, Deadpool would not be there, and neither would Dick Grayson.
He would not.
Even if you were a teenage girl.
Even if I were a teenage girl. Because when I was a teenage girl, it was Vegeta and Ty from Digimon.
See, I thought you were going to say Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, he was on there too.
And Sora and Riku.
No, not Sora, just Riku.
So that was story time with Daniel. Somehow it ended up with us discussing hot men. Hot fictional men.
At least hotties of DC Universe.
So we're kicking it off with more news from Baltimore Retail Summit.
We're hicking it off?
Did I say hicking it off?
I'm pretty sure hicking it off.
I meant to say kicking it off if I did say hicking it off. Boom Studios, who's an independent comic publisher, announced at that same retail summit that Giant Days will move from its extended 12-issue miniseries to a full-on, ongoing comic.
Finally! This is exactly what needed to happen. I'm glad we got it. Good job, Boom.
We were grateful with the fact that they even made it a 12-issue miniseries, and now that we're going to get way more than that is a good thing. And this is also the same company that canceled a bunch of titles before announcing that with their new incentive program, these are going to be the comics you have to order up on if you want to reach a certain bonus when you order through Boom.
With that incentive, retailers that stock up on a given number of issues, 1 through 4 of a series, each quarter will have the option of returning unsold copies of their comics at a later date.
So that's something that DC is doing right now. With their DCU line, they said order up as much as you want, and months later you can return whatever unsold copies you had. And this is usually a move made by companies that are trying to grow their comics, not a company that is legitimately successful and knows that they can sell their books regardless of the return rate. And that goes over to Marvel. Marvel right now is killing the comic market. They're doing so well. They're selling over DC by double. So they do 0 returns on their comics, and they don't need to. So that's a business move right there that I do respect from Marvel is we know our comics will sell and we know you're going to keep them, and we don't have to do a returnability on any of these for you to order up. And on the other side, DC is like, find the ceiling in your shop. Like, this is how much you sell of Constantine every month, 15. Okay, so order 15 every month. Yes, you bought 40, return the rest, the difference, whatever you don't sell later on. And now Boom is doing that. The only thing is you have to order issues 1 through 4. With DC, you can order any number of issues for a particular series up to a certain point, and then you can return them. Sometimes, like Convergence, all of the Convergence books are returnable, thankfully, because otherwise they knew people weren't going to order up on that shit. But if you're given the option, you have to order 1 through 4 and then you qualify, do you think they should do a little bit of a better incentive? Or do you think they don't have that wiggle room as an independent publisher to even do that?
I think they probably have wiggle room. I think what they're doing is fine. You know, it's not a big leap to ask somebody to order issues 1 through 4. It's not that far of a stretch if they know that they're going to get their money back.
I agree. I think my personal shop, if we had this incentive ahead of time, we probably would have issues of Giant Days in our back issue bins. We probably would have ordered up more on a brand new series like Giant Days that ended up doing really well earlier on and taking a chance for it. And that's really where it comes to. Some of the comic shops that are struggling probably won't take advantage of this because that is extra money that you have to spend that you're going to get later on right back. But otherwise, there is an extra incentive. Retailers that participate with Boom on this incentive will get a dedicated contact at Boom Studios to help out with promotional materials, and they will also help you set up exclusive events at your shop. So they have connections with the retailers, with the authors, with the artists, and they can send those out to shops that are trying to make something big out of the Boom Studio comics.
I think that's really smart to do that also because, again, that probably doesn't cost them a lot to set them up with one of those people. By doing those promotional parties or whatever they're doing at the stores, promotional events, that's really smart too because it's going to bring business into the store, but then bring business to Boom Comics as well. And again, pretty much free advertising at that point because you're getting the space for free. You just have to pay some people to help set it up.
Yeah, not a bad move at all. Let's see how this works out for the studio in the future. But speaking of future, we're going back to a comic that hasn't been published for years, and that is a Jim Lee Frank Miller title that we probably will still see in comic shops, in back issue bins for years to come.
So Jim Lee recently weighed in on Frank Miller returning to comics again and how he would like to finish off a particular Batman project.
The quote here is, "I would love to get back on All-Star, Batman and Robin, and close it out. He's got a great ending to the story and a really cool final scene that was described to me that is just classic."
That's awesome. Do you actually think we're going to see the conclusion to this ever?
They've been promising that for years and years. This was a comic that I was picking up as it released. I had a subscription when this was coming out, and it was constantly delayed with the different issues. Jim Lee has gone on record to say that when he was drawing this comic, he was doing so much Batman at that point that he got really burned out and did not want to finish All-Star Batman and Robin. And since that comic has released, people have been trashing it and saying that it is one of the worst Batman stories that's ever been published. I think that's a little much. I can still pick out a number of readers that legitimately like that comic, and every now and again you'll sell the trade paperback because people love the art so much from Jim Lee. That's probably the main thing that would have carried the comic forward than if it were drawn by any other artist. That being said, would I pick up All-Star Batman and Robin? I really don't know. It really wasn't a good story. Maybe I'd pick up the trade paperback once it was all finished. But I could see this being as like a All-Star Batman and Robin to be continued. And we're going to bring out this premium format book, kind of like they're doing with the Dark Knight 3 right now with the upcoming series. So, good move, but I wouldn't bet all my chips on that.
These guys are like the Kingdom Hearts of the DC universe. Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. 7,000 years later.
Except they're not releasing, like, All-Star Batman and Robin .5, you know?
They should, though, and just add, like, one more page in there. Be perfect.
At the rate that Jim Lee works, probably, yeah. He's probably been working on it this whole time, and this is just his
way of saying
rate.
It's almost here.
I'm almost got it finished. He's not the quickest artist.
Oh, so I thought of a question I had for you.
Go for it.
Sorry, real quick. So if I add Constantine to my list, does it have to also be the comic book Constantine, or can I just add the TV show Constantine?
It would only count if they made a TV show adaptation comic based on it. Damn. Then it would count. Otherwise, you are adding the comic book Constantine.
Well, then never mind. Constantine isn't on my list.
So continuing on with older comics that are sort of making a return, through a statement with Deadline, HBO has confirmed that they are in preliminary talks with Zack Snyder to adapt Watchmen into a television series.
Woohoo! Then maybe Manhattan will be on my list.
There you go. I did not know how you would react to this, personally.
I'm kind of, like, super excited. Because, remember, they released, before the Watchmen, the comic book series.
Yes.
And I was not excited for that. But I actually think that the things they did with that built upon or made the actual story of Watchmen better. Mm-hmm. Because it elaborated on things. It all flowed very, very well. So that gives me high hopes that we may see the same thing from this. There's still a lot that they can do. I mean, obviously they were a team fighting crime, and we never got to see them doing any of that.
Right.
So there's still many, many years of action with these characters that we can see happen.
So it sounds like you're leaning more towards wanting them to do a prequel television series than actually adapting the graphic novel into a full-on series with different seasons. Like maybe season 1 is the first third of the comic and season 2 is the rest of it.
Well, yeah, because we already had a movie, and I think the movie did a really good job.
That's true. We do want to make it clear, though, that no release date was given and no word on whether this will be a prequel, a reimagining, or a sequel to the original graphic novel by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons.
However, it is on HBO, so we will see Dr. Manhattan's thing-a-ling.
All the time.
All the time. It'll just be everywhere.
It won't even be hard. It'll just be there, because it was never hard in the comic. It was just flaccid, just hanging there, chilling.
Dangling.
It could have been another character, really.
Are we going to, like, put a face on him? Is he going to have a personality?
I do think people react a little much, because they're like, it's a blue penis. It's like, yes, it's a fucking dick on screen. Is this your first one seeing on the top?
Does he always have blue balls?
Always, all the time.
That's so sad. Poor Dr. Manhattan.
But clearly he doesn't care. If you remember in the graphic novel, he was like working while having sex because he really didn't get pleasure, but he claimed that his mind was in that act, and
But it wasn't.
right. So he's satisfied at all times. He doesn't need to come. That's the thing about Dr. Manhattan. He's a god, essentially. He really is.
I guess. But I don't know. I mean, poor Dr. Manhattan.
So it's funny. This is such a weird story because this is where you start to see a little bit of nerd rage emerge again. People were saying that when the Watchmen movie was announced, this was going to be a regular movie coming out in theaters. They said a movie an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours even, is not enough time to adapt the greatness that is Watchmen. Zack Snyder came out with it, and he made it almost exactly like the comic. Certain shots were almost exactly like the page and the panel, as close as you can probably get realistically to adapting Watchmen from the graphic novel into the movie. They made a couple of changes near the end, which I personally thought were for the better, for the serving the story, especially with the character development with Dr. Manhattan, who we gravitated a lot towards when we read the comic and when we watched the movie.
Not just for his thing-a-ling, though.
Right. So we were okay with that, and they were saying it needs to be, if you're going to do this, it needs to be a television series. And now they're saying, no, you need to leave it alone, and it just needs to be a graphic novel. I'm always of the mindset that you're always going to have the graphic novel.
Right.
If they make 7 television series and 3 movies, it's not going to affect the fact that you will always have the graphic novel book to enjoy if you don't want to see any of these things, just like Alan Moore doesn't want to. So if they want to expand on the Watchmen universe, or maybe take their time doing the Watchmen story as it originally was, I'm all for it, especially with Zack Snyder. He's probably not going to direct. He's probably just going to be a producer on it, which is fine. Consult him, because honestly, I did think he did a good job with the Watchmen movie adaptation.
I agree. I thought he did a fabulous job. I think I finished the graphic novel, like, right as we were going to see the movie. Like, you made a bet with me, like, I got something if I finished it. I remember, like, I read it and then I watched the movie, and there was so much that was similar, and I thought it was a great adaptation. Could they have expanded more with the TV series? Probably, and that may be what we see. I don't feel like that's what we need to see. Like I said, I would rather have a prequel leading up to it, or maybe even right before those moments, but with the same characters, or maybe you could bleed some into the aftermath and how the world gets to rebuild from that. And then in that instance, they could add new characters, and it wouldn't necessarily be Watchmen. I mean, it could still be Watchmen.
Yeah, because there's been different teams of Watchmen. Right.
It would just be new characters, so it could appeal to older readers, and of course you're going to have the ones who go, this isn't my Watchmen, I'm not going to watch it. Well, then don't watch them. Look what I did there.
You're not going to watch the Watchmen, right?
But, you know, then you have other people who watch it, one, just because it's a show, and if they do it right and make a great superhero show, then they're going to be led back to the comic books, or you're going to have people like us who enjoyed Watchmen who are going to get who want to see what they're going to do with this. And yes, if it is something new and it's good, then we're going to continue with it. So, you know, like you said, we don't have any information. We don't know what this show is going to be. It's all in preliminary talks. But there's so much that can be done. And again, and I say this all the time, but if it's done right, it'll be really good.
The only part that worries me about the Watchmen television series is if they do remake the characters like Dr. Manhattan or Rorschach, which were nailed in my opinion with the movie. Like, if I were to see a television version of them, I just immediately going to conflict, even if it's better than the movie version. Just because I'm used to the movie already, I'm going to immediately be like, I'm going to take that down a notch because I'm not familiar with that. So that's the only thing, but the fact that they are consulting with Zack Snyder tells me that maybe they'll use similar technology when they use Dr. Manhattan, if they reuse Dr. Manhattan. And if anything, maybe he'll get them closer to the feel of his movie adaptation. So, to me, all things good. Anyone that's really against this, HBO doesn't have the greatest track record of getting these things made. Like, we're in preliminary talks, and most of the time, that's actually where it ends with HBO. There's a very good chance we may not even see Watchmen come to the television screen. But if they do, you know, we'll give it a chance. We'll give it a shot. Why not? It's better to have something exist and let's see like how they could have done it, and then not to see it ever and wonder if they could have nailed it even better the second time around. So good news overall.
But speaking of a comic book show, Newsarama had a recent headline which reads, "Do comic book TV shows sell comic books? Retailers weigh in.
The most obvious fucking story. This is the one story that you can see the headline for and answer it without clicking on the fucking link. I thought it... I don't know if it was a slow news story. I just felt like I had to include it in the notes because I feel like even people that don't work in the comic retail industry can say, yes, of course it fucking sells comics. Batman, any fucking series, Watchmen, the TV series, let's say that releases. You don't think people are going to see that and go, well, let me buy the original graphic novel. Right now with Walking Dead, we're how many seasons in? And people are still going to walk into comic shops and say, I like The Walking Dead. Do you have The Walking Dead comic? Show them the trade paperback because they're not going to pay $10,000 for Walking Dead number 1.
They might. You don't know them.
Here's Walking Dead Volume 1, $14.99. Enjoy. And then from there, they're going to get all 24 volumes. Who knows how many by the time this podcast releases. And they'll catch up.
How many by the time it releases? Like, it's releasing tomorrow. You're going to,
well, it's the fucking Walking Dead. They come out with that shit all the time.
They're going to pop out, like, 7 more before tomorrow?
Not everyone listens to it right away. Some people are months behind still, and that's fine, too. But that is one of the things that I love about the television shows, about the movies, anytime they do a comic adaptation, is that's going to bring in customers to the comic shops out there. People that are going to see Batman v Superman next year, they're going to say, I heard this was tied in or it got inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. Come on in. Get The Dark Knight Returns. Enjoy this. It's going to be a little bit different than what you saw in the theaters, but you're going to see where the seeds were planted for the future film.
Superman's a little more gay for Batman in this?
Possibly? I don't know. Which Superman's more gay? The film Henry Cavill Superman, which was pretty flamboyant in Man of Steel, or the Don't Touch Him Superman from The Dark Knight Returns?
We've yet to see Henry Cavill interact with Batman, though.
We saw him in the trailers, and he's like, like, you said it yourself, he's fighting his inner feelings.
Well, I mean, of course he is, but we never, like, actually saw them interact.
What about when he takes the Batmobile, like, pieces off, and he throws them off?
We don't, those are just snippets. We need to see, like, moments. We need to see, like, moments where they're so close and yet so far, and we haven't had those yet. So we'll see them in this movie, and then I will be able to let you know.
I feel like we've ruined Batman v Superman for brocats out there, because in their minds they're like, okay, Superman loves Batman, so when they're gonna see the movie, they're just gonna see Superman, like, again, fighting his feelings.
You mean we've made this movie better for brocats?
That's true too. They're enjoying it on a whole different level. They're going to analyze it deeper than their fellow friends and family.
They're going to be with their friends, and then, like, Superman's going to say something, and they're going to laugh because they know. And their friends are going to be like, this is a serious moment. Why are you laughing?
You child.
But they know.
I really can't wait. I can't wait for Batman v Superman. Even if it ends up being not good. Just the fact that we're going to see Superman interacting with Batman, and it's just going to be so perfect. Because you know he's not going to fucking kill Batman. He's not going to beat him up too bad, because he's too handsome. He's in love. The first time he sees the Batman, and the first time he realizes that maybe he likes guys. Or maybe he just likes Batman.
He just likes Batman.
All right, there you
go. You know we're going to be talking through that whole movie.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to be leaning over every second like, heh heh heh. You know what he meant there.
On the complete flip side, we've got the Marvel movies. And Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is the latest to respond to Steven Spielberg saying that superhero movies would eventually go the way of the Western.
He said, it could, but the Western lasted 40 to 50 years, and they still pop up occasionally. It's been, 8 years since Iron Man 1? If we count that, which I do, as the beginning of our MCU, maybe the superhero genre will only last another 42 years.
So of course he's saying it's pretty hopeful. He's got a very optimistic view on the future of superhero movies. And I don't mind that quote either. Like, I want the movies to go another 42 years, and I'd be totally fine with that.
Right.
Now, I do think people are way quicker on getting bored of things. They need to be entertained in different ways. Much quicker than you would have the Western, because back then that was your only option. So you'd go and you'd watch it, and that's all you had. You didn't have internet, or you couldn't vote with your dollar quite like you could now, and make yourself heard like you can today. So that's one thing where I don't think it'll last another 42 years. Like, of course, I'm hopeful that it will, and even longer, but probably not. Probably another 15 to 20 years at the most. So, but either way, I think that's good. It tells me that Kevin Feige has a plan for the MCU, and even if we're not liking them as much as everyone else, the fact that people are going out and paying money to see these movies means that other companies are going to go out there and try to make their own comic book universe, as we're going to see DC kick theirs off next year. What do you think about Kevin's quote on this?
I will summarize it in just a few words. Bitch, we ain't going nowhere. That's pretty much what he just said.
That's very true.
Yes. Because he said, what do we last, another 42 years? That's pretty much what he did. And I believe you are correct in the fact that I don't think this will last another 42 years. I give it maybe 10 at the most. Like you said, we do lose interest in things very quickly. So I think we have a great lineup over the next few years. I think we have maybe about 10 more years out of this massive superhero genre, and then it'll start to fade out a little bit, particularly if all we're giving our audience is action, like the Marvel movies does. You know, you need to give them something that they can connect with, that they want to come back to.
Which they've done some of with the Captain America movies, but right. I want to see more of that, so that those movies do stand against the test of time, right? We want those movies, we want those films. You know, Batman Begins, I could watch forever, but Captain America I can see forever. Winter Soldier I can probably see in another 5 years, but something like Ant-Man or Iron Man, it's like, or the Avengers, it's kind of like, okay, well, it was fun when it came out, but do I really want to own it and watch it in 10 years? Maybe not so much. So hopefully they'll move forward and make those movies that are going to be a little bit deeper, and hopefully their audience grows with that, and they can start laying on those heavier themes as they move forward. And maybe that is their plan. You know, we have no input or any information on any of this, so you
make it sound like we have input and information.
We really don't.
We don't know anything. We don't, but maybe they will. But we don't know anything.
I am optimistic though, because he did say that with the Infinity War films, which are I think 6 or 7 years out, that the Avengers are going to completely change, or there's going to be new characters, that the team's not going to be the same after those movies.
Right.
So that tells me, and I think that's probably also where the contracts end for a lot of the actors. So that's probably where they're going to bring on like the new Captain America, or the new, maybe there's a new Iron Man out there, because let's face it, Tony Stark isn't the youngest actor right now, and it is Tony Stark. It's not fucking Robert Downey Jr. anymore.
So should I start like doing sit-ups so I can be like Captain America? Can I be Captain America?
No, there hasn't been a female Cap yet, at least recently.
I could be the first.
A little redhead Cap?
Yeah.
You can be Captain Ireland. Captain Lucky Charms. Is that racist?
That's racist. That's so racist. Captain Scotland? Like, no.
Captain
Racist.
Ginger? No?
No.
Would you take that mantle if Marvel said...
Yes, if Marvel said, hey, do you want to be Captain Ginger?
How quickly you give up your... Fine,
yeah, I'll be Captain Ginger. But I gotta be like a crazy ginger. Like, people are scared of me and my ginger ways.
You could be the new Red Skull.
That's even more racist. Stop. That's so mean.
That has nothing to do... No, you're not even a Nazi. You're not even a part of Hydra.
No, but you're telling me because I have red hair, I might as well be Red Skull. We're like the same thing.
I'm just saying it's an easier marketing move.
Am I just sunburnt all the time? Is that what it is? Instead of like having like my skin burned off or whatever he is, I'm just sunburnt.
In the Ultimate Universe, they made it so that Red Skull was actually Steve Rogers, Captain America's kid. And when he got unfrozen, of course, he was older to sort of match Steve Rogers' age. And he was a little bit insane, and he ripped off his skin around his neck and his face, and he ripped it all off. So that's how he became the Red Skull. It was such a weird... Like, I like that they tried to come up with new ideas to reinvent these characters. But even when I was reading it, as I was picking it up every month, I was like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
Well... How Kelli becomes the Red Skull is she goes to the beach for a day and forgets her sunscreen, but then she's the red everything.
That's true. The lobster.
Yeah. No, you're even more racist. Ah. Could I dance and then be the dancing lobsters from the Amanda Bynes show?
That is such a weird reference. I don't even remember that.
You don't remember the dancing lobsters?
I don't.
I only remember them because we had these hot gloves at work to like take apart things, and they look like little lobster claws. And then I had a coworker once who always used to put them on and go, "It's the dancing lobsters," and then they like dance with them. It was the best thing ever.
All right, so I do have an update for Brokettes on Batman Day 2015.
Batman Day.
So we did say how DC did not handle this as well as they should have.
Correct.
And Batman Day did come, and it actually wasn't as bad as I anticipated. People came into the shop, they picked up the comic, they bought some other things aside from what actually released.
Well, that's good, because I expected them to come in and, like, buy nothing, because DC just didn't fucking advertise it or something.
And to credit to our shop and to other shops out there, they tried to do their best with Batman Day. We did have cosplayers come into the shop, and they took pictures with customers, which they love. People love cosplayers. They don't have to be professional grade, convention going, I have a booth cosplayers. They just have to come in dressed as a character, and people know, oh, that's fucking Gordon or whatever. And that's good enough, and people like that. They're like, oh, go take a picture with Batman, go take a picture with Batgirl, and all the kids will go there, and all the customers didn't even know about Batman Day, which was probably 90% of the people who came in. They're like, oh, Batman Day? And I'm like, yep, right over here.
Because it wasn't marketed, but what else?
Get your free comic right here. Oh, thanks, man. And then, maybe they'd leave with a comic, and in my mind, they picked up a book. Maybe they'll come back and pick up another Batman comic, as they were possibly inspired to start reading some more comics. And once they have that entry point, that's where they expand into other characters, into the Marvel Universe, into independent, or maybe even more DC comics. So either way, it's a good thing to always give out a free comic whenever you can. The only and it wasn't as bad as I thought, again, but the whole time I still kept thinking it could have still been a much bigger event.
Oh, agreed.
It could have been, and we could have done it much bigger. And I really don't know now if DC will do it better in 2016, because we got a downloadable coloring book, a downloadable activity sheet, or whatever that was.
Did you print me color pages?
No, that costs money. That's why no shops out there probably printed out these color pages.
How much were these color pages?
Whatever your printer cost in ink, and then your paper, which is not cheap.
Well, I mean, shit. But you could have printed me color pages.
You know what you can print out now?
What?
You can print out Pokemon pumpkin carvings. You can right now go to Pokemon.com. It's on the homepage.
Okay, but are there Pokemon color pages?
I don't think so. I mean, you can color those.
I just like color pages.
I will get you a Showcase trade paperback, which I was actually talking to John on Twitter about, that the Showcase books are all black and white, which is what that Ra's al Ghul first appearance book that we talked about a couple weeks ago is going to be in. They're all black and white. You can color them if you want.
No, but I want, like, little kids' color pages where I only have to use 3 colors.
It's never good enough. You don't have to use more than 3 colors.
No, but it's going to look real weird.
You color Ra's in green. Just his cape.
Just all green.
That's all you need.
Is Talia in any of these?
She was in the first appearance.
I'm gonna, like, draw her bad.
So you fine, color her bad if you want.
No, I just want regular color pages.
So, in the end, I just want DC to do better, and thankfully, for the most part, it was salvaged this year, but let's make a better Batman Day. If you're really going to dedicate a whole day to this, please make 2016 better, because honestly, it is unacceptable to make comic shops like, okay, well, let's call in these people and try to do this and center it all around this free comic. Like, make it better. We ended up taking some of the overstock free comic book day from this year, all the Batman ones, and putting those out there, which was fine, but not every shop has that luxury. Right. So
I did have a Batman moment myself on Batman Day, though.
Oh, nice.
Yes, at work. So for those of you who listened to our podcast a few weeks ago, I was saying that they should have done, what did I say, hashtag I am Batman?
Yeah, or be the Batman.
Hashtag be the Batman. Something along those lines where you embody Batman and you take a picture and show how you are. So I did mine unexpectedly. I didn't even remember that it was Batman Day. I remembered after the fact. But I was walking around and I accidentally snuck up on a coworker and, like, scared them because I was super quiet. And they're like, oh, you scared me. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much like Batman.
That's true.
Because I was sneaking up on people.
In the Arkham games, if they're frightened, you can immediately take them down.
I should have just taken him down, just, like, choked him out. Like, his location would have fallen to shit. It would have been fine.
Probably. So speaking of kind of rushed conventions, I guess, or rushed events, I should say. Yeah, rushed things. We do have this surprise that kind of came up out of nowhere. MegaCon Fan Days 2015.
So this will take place November 21st through the 22nd at the Orange County Convention Center. Like we said, announced the other day, they gave me no time to request off work.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You got to remember that MegaCon is now run by a different company, different people, and that is the company behind Fan Expo. And you can already tell, like, Fan Days 2015. Right. So right now it's MegaCon Fan Days. Next year it'll be Mega Fan Days 2015.
Mega Fan Con Days. Mega Days Con Fan.
And then Fan Days Expo 2015. And then finally Fan Expo 2015. That's what they're really doing. But so far we do actually already have confirmed guests.
Wow.
We have Sean Astin from or is it Astin? Sean Astin from the Lord of the Rings. Astin from the Lord of the Rings movies. James Marsters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. Jimmy Palmiotti from Painkiller Jane. And of course Amanda Connor on Harley Quinn. More guests to come.
So for more information, you can go to megaconfandays.com.
I'll definitely be there. I've already requested my days off. You're going to try to be there.
Yep.
And for anyone in the Central Florida area, this is essentially MegaCon trying to establish their convention as the fall convention, because we do have Wizard World Orlando coming in August of 2016.
How dare they? How do they think I have money and available time off to go to all these conventions?
I did have one person say they're oversaturizing Orlando with conventions.
Nope.
It's like, no, not really. Like, we have MegaCon times 2. And then Wizard World Orlando. You go to Chicago, and they have more conventions than we do, and that's not oversaturized. So it's fine. Orange County Convention Center can handle 2 conventions and a half a convention every year.
Convention.
Well, right now it is. I mean, 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, it's fine. I do think it's going to do better than expected, even though they did just announce it, a month and a half or 2 months ahead of time. But hopefully this will do well. Hopefully Wizard World Orlando does really well. And again, all of this is good because maybe we'll get a more varied lineup of guests hitting the Central Florida area.
Hopefully. I can't wait to see and find out. Another big event that happened in Orlando this week that we got to attend, I don't know, I felt it was a big event.
And apparently just in Orlando, not in the rest of the nation.
Shh, just Orlando. It happened for us in Orlando. Just let me live in this fantasy that we were the only ones there.
All right.
Okay, so we had the opportunity to see the Iron Giant on the big screen once again.
Yeah, that was all thanks to you. You surprised me with tickets to the Iron Giant.
Surprise! I'm the best wife ever.
It was awesome. How old is this movie now? It's 16 years old or something?
Really? Am I that old?
And we got to see it, and it was a lot of people our age.
Mm-hmm. And older.
And a lot of kids in there too. It looked great. I thought that the remastering of it was fantastic, and I can't wait to see it on Blu-ray if it ever does an actual physical Blu-ray disc release, because when they finished the movie they announced it as an iTunes digital release.
How dare they?
Which I was not happy with. I do want to see it on disc, and I think it would do well. I don't know what the ticket returns on it were, but the theater that we went to was definitely sold out.
Yeah.
I feel like seeing it many years later, and I've seen it a couple times since then, of course. Every other year, I'll give it another watch. But I've noticed that as I've gotten older, the emotional portions of the movie hit me a lot harder. And that's not something new that it's not something new that I've covered this week. It's something I've definitely noticed as I've gone back and seen some of the movies that I grew up with, and you just appreciate them on a whole different level when you see them again. And with the Iron Giant, it's absolutely heavy because the character development on these characters is so well done. And with the Iron Giant just being such an innocent character that can't control the fact that he might be a weapon, and all the extra scenes that added on there do give you background on who the Iron Giant really is. All of that hits you all at once, and even if you have seen this already, and the fact that you know what's going to happen is beneficial to you to appreciate the new experience all over again, because you know what's going to happen to the Iron Giant, and you know what kind of actions he takes to with the people in Rockwell. So when that all builds up, it's just going to hit you hard, and you're going to have tears before anything even happens, and it's such a wonderful experience.
It really, really was, and the reaction from the crowd for me was amazing because I did not expect that. At one point, I like leaned over to you because everybody was cheering. I'm like, they know they can't hear them, right? Because every time somebody would come on the screen, they would cheer. But that's great that movie has that much love. Like you said, the tears hit you hard. They hit me like 10 minutes before anything even happened. And I'm like, no, I can't do this. I would love to see a sequel, and I hope that's what they're building up for. I would love to see this come out on Blu-ray. If you guys haven't seen this movie or haven't seen it in a while, I definitely recommend going back and watching it. I think once the movie was finally done, I was thinking back on it, and my consensus was that was almost a perfect movie.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing you could really nitpick on and say, well, this wasn't very good, or I didn't really understand this, or this didn't fit with it. It all just seemed to work perfectly together.
And the extra scenes that they did add on there, which were only 2. The first one, I felt like they could have cut, and I was glad that it was cut in the original version of the movie. The second one, though, was pretty important to the background of the Iron Giant, and I'm glad we got to see it. It might have been in a DVD release in the past of like just the sketches or whatever, like you see in the Disney movies. And to actually see it reanimated, and they tried their best to make it fit to what the older animation was, and you knew that the deleted scene was coming up because the sound was in high definition. It's like, holy shit, the sound's way better now. So you know it was a deleted scene, so that's the only thing. But the fact that second version does give you like, this is who the Iron Giant was,
right?
This is why he's a gun, and that's all you need to know. It's like, okay, so this confirms what we all sort of took guesses at when we originally saw the movie. And I don't feel like it took away from the mystery of who he was. I do think it was important to understanding the character, so that was good. And then they also gave you an ad near the end of the behind-the-scenes documentary of the making of the Iron Giant, and how it wasn't a hit like they wanted it to be. It wasn't an Academy Award winner like they expected it to be. And all of that will be included in the digital and hopefully physical release of the Iron Giant remastered. Warner Brothers was very careful to include a scene of Brad Bird, who now is a Disney guy because he works for Pixar, of him making fun of Disney movies and saying how the Iron Giant was not going to be a Disney movie of this lowbrow intelligence thing. And I'm like, WB, you did that shit on purpose.
Of course they did. They're trying to get him in trouble.
But at the same time, he came out and did this little film thing, this current clip of like, thank you for coming out to see the movie. We love you all. And even years later, we still have all of this labor of love that we put into the remaster of the Iron Giant. So I felt like he must have seen that and been like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I made a better version of Disney movies with the Pixar movies. We don't have musicals every 10 minutes or whatever. So, so it was great. If you get the chance to see the encore, if you did see it, awesome. If it's past all that, do pick up the digital release.
So before we jump into our news, we did get a question of the week from John on Facebook.
He asked, what's your kryptonite?
So are we talking kryptonite in, like, the comic book world, or in the comics, movies, TV, video games, and more, or just kryptonite in general? Because I have a bunch of different kryptonites.
John said in general, but that it could relate to the podcast if you wanted.
Okay.
And when I asked you the question before even reading what John's response was, you already had yours.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't relate. I guess it kind of relates to the podcast.
Then you could give 2 answers.
Okay, well, go ahead with yours.
For me, it's going to go straight into the podcast, and it's probably going to be anything that relates to my childhood. So, I hate to sound like a broken record every single week, but anything with Batman, the animated series, especially anything with Batman and the villains that I did grow up with, all of that is going to immediately be like, okay, I need to buy this. With Pokemon, if they put in the original 150, Bulbasaur somewhere in the marketing, I'm in. If with the Mystery Dungeon games, you get to play as Bulbasaur, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of in on that. If they make a t-shirt featuring the 3 starters and Bulbasaur's featured in the center, I'm going to buy that shit. We went to Hot Topic and they have the little wristbands. They have Blastoise, they have Charizard, no Venusaur at all. This is why seeing things like Bulbasaur included anywhere, it's my kryptonite, because I want to let them know I want to see more of this shit.
And he's green.
And he's green and blue and
well,
black.
Kryptonite's green and Bulbasaur's green. Perfect.
So I'll say that, just so it's not Batman all the time. Bulbasaur's my kryptonite.
So, for me, if we're talking podcast related, classic Harley Quinn. if I see her anywhere, like, I kind of have to own it, unfortunately. Right. Pikachu things, which I've been better about not buying every Pikachu thing I see, but I definitely have a weakness for Pikachu things. If we're going to talk in general in all of my life, it's coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Don't roll your eyes at me and say, like you know me and you know all the things I like. But definitely coffee. It actually got to the point where I went to the doctor and he told me I had to stop drinking so much coffee.
Caffeine in particular.
Yeah. Well, he said the words coffee. He didn't say caffeine, he said coffee.
You knew what he meant.
Exactly.
There's no way anything else in coffee is doing you harm.
But definitely my kryptonite. I haven't had it in days either, and I'm so sad. But I used to spend so much money at Starbucks. I drink it all the time at work. In my peak of coffee days, I was having like 4 lattes a day.
That's insane.
Which has like 3 shots of espresso in each one. Like,
well, that's why you got sick.
I mean, probably. Crazy amounts of coffee, and I love it, and I still love it. If somebody goes, hey, you want a salted caramel fry? Yeah, done.
That's called an addiction.
It is an addiction.
Caffeine is
it's my kryptonite. It's my addiction.
More addicting than nicotine.
There's like 3 people in the world that I would give up coffee for. Like, that's how serious it is. There's only 3 people in the world who could come to me and say, Kelli, you need to stop this or I'm out of your life. And I would say, okay, I'll stop this. Other people, I'd be like, see you around, bitch. I got my coffee. Coffee ain't going nowhere. Coffee loves me for me.
That's awesome. So let's move on forward with...
That's not awesome. That's terrible.
No, you answered that question great.
See, I need coffee to help soothe this cough.
Apparently. So we do want to thank Dr. Phillips Center of Performing Arts at the Walt Disney Theater. Pixar in Concert is the next show that relates to what we talk about here on the podcast with the Brokettes.
It'll be coming up actually a week from now. Sunday, October 11th at 3 p.m.
This visually stunning, high-definition multimedia family show features montages of memorable clips from every one of Pixar's 14 films, including Cars, WALL-E, Ratatouille, A Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., and Brave, all accompanied by live symphony orchestra.
Tickets start at $35, and you can find out more information at www.drphillipscenter.org.
And that's Dr. DR, not like Doctor Who, DLCTR. drphillips.org. You can get your tickets there. We just talked about Brad Bird. If you like Brad Bird, you can hear the music accompanied to his movies right there at Pixar in Concert.
We'd also like to give one last shout out to our Patreon supporter of the week.
This week it goes out to Alexander on Twitter at Swordfish Show. You can check out his YouTube channel at purpleswordfish.com. He does all kinds of Let's Plays for various indie video games as well as big video games like Madden 2016, 2017. He's going to do all the Madden movies or Madden video games. You're going to see that for years to come because his channel is awesome. It's growing every single week, and you can check it out once again at purpleswordfish.com.
If you guys would like your own shout out on this show, all you have to do is become a Patreon supporter.
For as little as $1 a month, you can head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimebroke. And if you want to support us with your wallet, there you go. As little as $1 a month, you will get your shout out every single month right here on the podcast. And of course, it helps us build up to the next goal, which is actually towards alphonic audio quality.
And while your donations help us put out a better podcast for you guys, just know our show will always be free for all of you. The greatest thing you can do for us is just listen and support and let us know what you think.
So comic books for the week. We've got a couple of indie comics and 3 DC books.
So our first indie comic is Archie #3. This is written by Mark Waid with art by Fiona Staples. And the colorist is Andrew Zemanowitz. I would just call myself Zemanowitz.
This is actually the last comic with Fiona Staples doing the interior artwork for Archie. And I do think it was the weakest so far from the Archie series. Now, that's not saying that it is a bad comic at all, but I felt like this is like we got to establish this triangle with Archie and Veronica and Betty, but they really spent a lot of time focusing on Veronica. And I understand that they have to like show us who she really is, but they didn't make her likable at all. I felt like, yeah, she felt vulnerable in this brand new environment, and she had this armor set up. But if we want her to be on the same level as Betty, who I really like right now, you have to make her a little bit more likable in this third issue.
I feel like they're going to get there. I like her more than I thought I was going to, because I never really read the other Archie comics, but I always viewed her as kind of like a static character that was just kind of there and above everybody else. And I feel like this comic kind of knocked her down a little bit. I understand what you're saying, not as much as I would have liked to have seen. But this is, it's the first filler that we've gotten from this. And the other two were so good that this one not being as good just hits us a little bit harder. So I still think it was a good comic, and I'm still really enjoying it. I was actually talking to somebody about it today and really recommending it. And I hope even when Fiona Staples isn't here anymore that it still is strong, because I think her art fits perfectly with the story that they're trying to tell. But if she goes back to, Saga, that's okay too.
Archie number 4, we'll have the artist behind the Black Canary, and then from there we'll have maybe a different ongoing artist moving forward, but we'll see. Either way, it is the story that matters in the end, so we're definitely staying on Archie moving forward. Next indie comic is The Accelerators, Momentum number 4 of 4. This is written by Ronnie Porto, art by Gavin Smith, and colors by Tim Yates, friend of the show.
I feel like we've taken a very long time to find out how to go back in time, but I feel we're very close to finding out how.
Yeah, this Momentum series has been a little bit up and down with the way that they theme up the pace of the series. In the first couple of issues, it felt like, okay, we're moving forward, and look at this, and then check this out, which is fun, which you can do in maybe half a comic or so. And I felt like this particular series and issues 3 and 4 of Momentum could have probably been issues the second half of maybe 1 even, and then 2 and 3 and 4 from there, if you want to expand with these characters and this sort of reality that they kind of came across in the future, because it was probably the most interesting portion of the series so far. And I did want to see more of the main, the control of this world, and I felt he was very interesting. And very quickly we sort of say goodbye to him, unfortunately. So maybe he'll make a return in the future, I'm not sure, but he was kind of going back to Watchmen, a very Dr. Manhattan-ish character, not as powerful, of course, but very similar to that. And I really enjoyed what he did with this world and with the people that he had control over. And now I understand that the Accelerator series is definitely like, this is the first arc, this is the second arc, and we're going to renumber it, and that's cool. I feel like more comics publishers should probably be doing that. If you're going to do a new arc, renumber it on number 1. If it's going to feel a lot different than what you previously did, go back to our number 1, and that's what Accelerators did. And this isn't the end, so there's going to be way more Accelerators to come.
Our next book is my pick of the week, Bee and Puppycat number 9. This is written by Patrick Siri with colorist by G.N. Kim.
I'm kind of surprised. Why was that your pick of the week?
Because it's so cute.
Just the cute characters.
It's adorable.
That's my Kyle voice. Very, very cute characters. I really liked the art in this one a lot. I thought it fit very well with Bee and Puppycat, but I liked the story and the message of it too. They go to a world of things that are lost and found because she's missing her scarf, and so that's obviously what you do. Let's go where things are lost. And you meet this character, and we don't learn a lot about the character, but you realize that this character's kind of given up on what used to be their passion. And through Bee and Puppycat, in just the most subtle way, they kind of reinvigorate that character and remind them of why they do what they do. And I think that's just, it's such a sweet message. And the thing is, it wasn't shoved down your throat. It was really, really subtle and smooth and easy to follow. Adorable.
It was definitely a great comic. It wasn't my favorite of the week, but absolutely, the artwork was absolutely gorgeous. We didn't have a backup story, so this main comic was all of it. We got all of it in this one issue. If you have not picked up 1 through 8, you'd be fine dropping in with number 9, because it's always these little adventures, and I feel like the two characters, I want the two characters to grow together through each one of these.
You just want Deckard to get out of the way.
He wasn't in this fucking comic, and I was so happy. And yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. I don't want to see Being Puppycat canceled at all. It's a very, very sweet series, as you mentioned, so good comic. Not my favorite, but yeah, it had a very awesome message in it. Next one comes from IDW and Disney, and that one is Uncle Scrooge number 6, written by Giorgio Pessin and Everett Giratz, with art by Marco Rota and Bas Heymans, with colors by Digicore Studios.
I'm glad you had to say all those names and not me.
Seems like I'm always stuck with them.
Yeah, you are.
And rightfully so. Some more of Uncle Scrooge trying to keep his money, more people trying to take his money. I'm happy that this was all wrapped up in this one issue. That they didn't split it up with like, oh, Uncle Scrooge number 7 is going to have the conclusion. Thank you so much. Put it all in here. Give me the oversized issue. Charge me $3.99, whatever it is.
Right.
And you get tons of pages for your $1.
I will say I love reading Uncle Scrooge and I love his books, but it's pretty much the same story every single time. Oh no, this guy wants to take my money, but I'm going to stop him. But oh no, he took my money, but I tricked him in the end.
And I'm cheap the whole time. Yes, it's awesome. I know. It's so great that it's the same story every single time. I love it. That's probably the best part, is that just how cheap Uncle Scrooge really is with every single
adventure. And he fucks
adventure.
over Donald every single issue.
He does. He shits on Donald's face. Like, Donald never ever wins anything from working with Uncle Scrooge.
Never. Still very, very good stories. They're a lot of fun, but the same story every single time we pick it up.
On to the DC Comics.
Our next one is Batman Annual number 4. This is written by James Tynion IV with art by Rogue Antonio, and the colorist is Dave McCaig.
This one's actually going to be my pass of the week.
Yeah, mine too. It's real weird.
You don't have to pick this up if you're picking up the Batman series. And that is usually a theme with the annuals in general. And the Batman annuals in the past have been pretty decent. I will say that the first one with Mr. Freeze, we didn't like that version of Mr. Freeze. But you did have that one with Zero Year and Endgame, I think, had an annual. So those were pretty solid. But this one itself, not so.
No.
And I feel like the biggest problem with that is the fact that Bruce Wayne is not Batman right now. He lost all his memories. He doesn't understand what it is to be Batman. So you're like, oh, look, it's Bruce Wayne, and he's not Batman, but he's kind of sort of doing Batman-ish things.
But he's not really even Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he's kind of this weird, nothing
bearded
character.
Lumberjack man.
And I understand that right now Gordon is Batman, and I guess that's fine, and you can't wait till Bruce Wayne actually becomes Batman again, but in the meantime, we got this sort of nothing story and these villains who know way more about Bruce Wayne's past than you figured they would.
Right.
I did not accept that.
And especially the 3 villains that they picked.
Right. Like one Riddler, cool.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll sort of buy that, but you're going to put Mr. Freeze and Clayface next to him?
Right.
That's not going to work. And they did it because in the plot, they needed to use their powers to make the rest of it work.
Which is just ridiculous. And like nobody noticed that they were all escaped, and I'm just no.
Yeah, I didn't buy it. Definitely. Was this your pass also?
Yeah, that's probably my pass of the week too.
Scott Snyder recently did put out a tweet because someone asked him, will Bruce Wayne ever be Batman again? Is the Joker really dead forever? And he's like, yep, they're never coming back ever again.
I love sarcasm and sassy people. Those are my favorite things.
I was like, Jesus, what an asshole. He's kind of a badass. And you know the guy that tweeted that was probably like, oh shit. He went and told his friends, like, we're never going to see Batman again.
He'd be back.
He told me. On to the Dark Side War.
Yes, this is your pick of the week.
No, it is actually not.
Really?
Justice League number 44, written by Jeff Johns, art by Jason Fabok, and colors by Brad Anderson.
I'm amazed because Batman was just floating around being a badass.
He was. The writing is amazing still. Jeff Johns knows how to craft a story, and he hasn't lost that touch with it. The way that he does Justice League is he'll lead you into the next page through the dialogue, through the action of the characters, and it's awesome to witness. As you're reading it, you're like, oh, awesome. This thing that you opened with in the comic, it ends with and closes, but at the same time leaves you on a cliffhanger. This is one of those speculator books, because we do have a death of a character in this issue.
Supposedly.
it's comic book death, and it's so sad that this is going to be sold out within 2 weeks. The speculators are going to buy it up, and they're going to think like it's the death of this character. You see the return of the Black Racer, who always shows up when there's a death of a new god. All of that is in here. You see the Flash has a very big role in this comic too, and I love the Darkseid War. It's been a very awesome series so far, very good arc, and now we've reached the point where it's like, okay, now things are going to really tumble forward with issue 45, 6, and 7. The outcome of the actions of 44 are going to come forward. And Batman is also losing himself with the chair, and we learn more about what he actually knows and how the chair works, which I really enjoyed. So, great comic, but yeah, not my pick of the week, just underneath it.
Interesting. Yeah, really great. I enjoyed it a lot. Every single page you turn, it's like, whoa, this is happening. Whoa, this is happening. What's going on? It's crazy. It's madness. And that's what I love in my books. And it's still very easy to follow. Like you said, you jump from multiple places throughout this book, but you never really feel lost. So if you guys aren't following the Darkseid War, pick it up. Pick it up. It's awesome. Our final book of the week, which I guess is also your pick of the week?
It is.
That's weird. Okay, so Sandman Overture number 6 of 6. This is written by Neil Gaiman with art by J.H. Williams III.
Kind of appropriate that this follows Justice League number 44 because the Black Racer is death embodied, right? And there's actually a different number characters of that embody death in the DC universe. There's the Black Racer, there's the Black Lanterns, the main, his name escapes me right now, and then you also have Death from the Sandman series. And one of the workers at DC said, well, this death is the compassionate release of death, and this death is the acceptance of non-existence, and this death is the struggle against death and clinging on to life. And Neil Gaiman was like, no, my death is the ultimate version of death.
My death is all the deaths.
And it was the equivalent of like someone at the playground being like, no, my character's the strongest ever. So I thought that was kind of funny. But so Neil Gaiman, yes, he fucking nailed tying this all back into the story that was first brought into print many, many years ago with Sandman Overture number 6. And the fucking artwork from J.H. Williams III, if he doesn't win any kind of award for this work in Sandman, it's a tragedy, because you open the page, every single panel, every single page could be framed. It's absolutely amazing. Different styles that he takes on for the different themes and the different emotions that the Sandman is going through. That alone should make you want to buy this issue by itself.
The story was a little hard for me to follow, I think, because it's been so long since we had issue number 5. I feel like it's been a long time.
It has been, yeah. This series has come out every 3 months or so.
Okay, so yes, a very, very long time. So it was a little difficult for me to follow. I still loved all the different characters that we got to see throughout. And again, I saw how this tied into the beginning of the series. I haven't read the book from many a moon ago to see how it tied in all the way to there, but I'll take your word for it. Like you said, really, really beautiful, beautiful book. If any of our bro cats are art lovers, something that you should definitely check out. For me, it was more for the story. Of course, that's what I look at. And I feel if I went back and read this all as one cohesive piece, then yes, I would enjoy it much more. But having that big of a gap was difficult for me to follow.
I have had a lot of subscribers say, I haven't read one issue. I'm waiting for all 6 to come out, and then I'm going to read them all back to back. And that was definitely the smart move, because yes, as you said, you will probably appreciate the comic more if you read issues 1 through 6 all back to back. And especially if you have probably read the original Sandman series, then it all goes right back to that first issue, and you see how he reached that point in that first graphic novel, in the first comic book. And yes, you do get there in the end, so you know what the outcome's going to be, so these stakes aren't as high, but just the fact that you see this character study of who the Sandman is, what you need to do to make him work for you, that is absolutely worth picking up this comic for. So, Sandman Overture number 6, my pick of the week.
Awesome. So guys, that will do it for our podcast this week. Just to remind you all, my pick of the week was BN Puppycat number 9.
And mine was Sandman Overture number 6 of 6.
And both of our passes of the week was Batman Annual number 4.
We do want to point you over to nerdupmedia.com, where you can check out the rest of our shows on the network, but you can also click on the Reasons I'm Broke logo or even on the tab, and you can follow us everywhere we're at, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr.
While you're there, you can also check out our shop. That's where you can buy t-shirts in various sizes for men and women. It comes in a variety of different colors. We have our Nerd at Media logo. We also have an exclusive The Reasons I'm Broke logo.
All of that helps us out, and of course, just the fact that you're tuning in and listening and giving us feedback, even if you don't follow us on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, thank you so much for checking us out and checking out the show, even if it is your very first episode. Huge thanks that Kelly and I appreciate that, of course. So thank you for tuning in this week. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Kelly.
We'll see you next week.
I gotta go find me some of my coffee night.